The deadline is fast approaching for the framework of the nuclear deal with Iran. The French foreign minister says Tehran needs to make a new effort to get a deal. Let's bring in Tennessee Republican Senator Bob Corker. He's the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for coming in. I know you're being briefed by the administration. Deal or no deal? What do you think?
Actually, you would be surprised how little briefing is taking place. But,
why would they not be briefing? You're the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee.
It's been an unusual thing, and that's why I think you see so many people in a bipartisan way wanting to make sure that Congress has the ability to weigh in, at least on the congressionally mandated sanctions, if a deal is reached. Everyone wants to see a good deal achieved. I think what you're going to see over the next period of time is the announcement of a political arrangement, meaning that it doesn't have all the details. I think everyone understands the important elements, Wolf, are all the classified annexes that come with this that really give you insights as to how much transparency is going to exist. Are we going to have the ability really to detect covert programs? Are we going to understand where their research and development is going? Are we going to know what their previous military dimensions were? We know they were moving towards a bomb at one point in time. So those are the important elements.
I assume they're going to have to share all that information, at least with the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee.
Well, at some point, yes, it's been an amazing thing. You know, we've all, again, we want to see a good deal. We want to see one that creates stability in the region. But as you see what the White House is doing, they're obviously moving away from Israel towards a relationship with Iran. And it's very apparent to me that what they're trying to achieve is a balance of power between the Shia sides and the more Sunni-oriented sides, and a way for them to extract themselves out of the Middle East. The missing component here is that Iran has not changed its behavior. I mean, we're seeing right now what's happening in Yemen. We know that if we make a bad deal and they actually get to a place where they're one screwdriver turn away from having a nuclear weapon, it creates proliferation possibly in the region. But the other thing is they'll have the ability, their economy will be growing, they'll have access to the $130 billion right now that's trapped overseas to even more fully destabilize the region.
Because financially this will be a bonanza if all that $130 billion is freed up to go into their coffers. But that's a serious suggestion or accusation you're making, that the Obama administration wants to move away from the longstanding support relationship with Israel and sees Iran as a substitute for Israel. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think that, I mean, it's obvious that the relationship with Israel is diminishing to a degree, and I'm not saying totally turning its back, but it's moving more towards you know, an Iranian-dominated relationship to create a balance of power. I mean, you're seeing that happen right now. And again, while, you know, in a textbook that might be interesting, what you're not seeing from Iran's standpoint is a change in behavior. You're seeing just the opposite. As a matter of fact, what you're seeing is them being more in the face of the Sunni population there. You're seeing, you know, Soleimani, who heads the Quds Force, you know, becoming more of a public celebrity in Iraq.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And as concerned as the Israelis are, the Saudis, the Emiratis, a lot of the Sunni Arab states, they're equally concerned about this potential deal.
No question. I mean, it's fascinating. You know, you wake up in the mornings and here we are in Iraq, helping make Iraq a better place for Iran. We're working with them right now in Tikrit in a loose way. And then on the flip side of that, in Yemen, where we know Iran is supporting the Houthis that are creating the destabilizing efforts that are taking place now, we're on the Saudi side of that, and it's almost like, I know this is a little bit trite, but you know, it's almost like the poll who says, I got friends on both sides and I'm with my friends, but it really is confusing to people in the region as to where the United States is today.
You have a problem if the administration, they don't see this deal as a treaty, which would require Senate ratification. Do you have a problem if they go to the United Nations Security Council for ratification first, and then go to the United States Senate and say, all of those sanctions that you imposed, you now take a vote on easing those sanctions?
So here's the issue. We respect the fact that the administration has the right to do whatever they wish with the UN Security Council sanctions that were imposed on Iran. That's an executive activity. We respect the fact that there are executive sanctions they put in place. But Wolf, you know this well, Congress put in place a whole host of congressionally mandated sanctions that really brought Iran to the table. And so what we're saying is, look, we want a good deal negotiated, but before you start unraveling the ones that Congress put in place, we want to make sure that you show us the deal, that we have access to those classified annexes, that we understand how we're going to have accountability, enforceability, and transparency. We want to know that those things are going to exist. And before you alleviate our sanctions, which means the entire sanctions regime basically unravels, we want to be able to say grace over that. I think that's a responsible place for the United States Senate. And I would think that the administration, if they're going to do a deal that will stand the test of time, move beyond their administration, they would want buy-in from the American people. We represent the American people.
Are you okay that they say this is not a treaty, it does not require a formal Senate roll call vote?
I appreciate their position and believe that the position that we've taken representing the American people is also the appropriate place, and that is, again, for us to be able to vote up or down before they start moving away from the sanctions that we put in place. Yeah. I think that is an appropriate balance.
I think they're going to be with you on that part, on the sanctions that Congress...
I don't think they're with us now.
Well,
let me say this.
Yeah.
I think we're going to pass a bill. Chuck Schumer, who's likely the next minority leader, Democratic minority leader today, Senator Reid endorsed him. He's stepping down. Came on last night as a co-sponsor while we were during budget negotiations. I do think we are going to pass a piece of legislation that gives Congress that ability to weigh in on behalf of the American people.